Got the blueprint, study my movement. More than the 2 cents. Was losing, now I'm oozing with success. Now I got the tools to beat the stress.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to be talking about Tales from the Territories, which aired October 4th, 2022. I know it's been almost a whole week, or basically it's time for the next episode. But if you saw the Legends of Wrestling, that sort of show that used to be on WWE 24/7, I think it will still be on the network actually. But basically it's a round table segment where the old guys like Michael Hayes and all those, Dusty Rhodes and all of them, would talk about some of their peers and some of the people that they came up with. It's basically that same format, except for they focus on a specific territory. That was the format for Tales of the Territories. Dutch Mantell, Jerry Jarrett, Jeff Jarrett, Jimmy Hart, and there was somebody else I'm thinking of. Jerry Lawler, of course, yeah. They were all present. They were all the storytellers for the evening. We're talking about Memphis. Jeff Jarrett was sort of the master of ceremonies, asking the questions and leading the conversation. So I'm not going to go through everything, but essentially it was a collection of personal stories and legendary moments from Memphis, such as when Jerry Jarrett got into a fight with Mario Galento. They ended up snatching his eyeball from his head. At least that's what he claimed. That sounded like it was an absolute nasty thing. And they did a really good job of finding footage. Like they found footage of Mario Galento's scarred face, which was incredible. That shit was awesome. They showed clips of Joe LeDuc. And they told a little bit of story about him, about, how he was a Canadian strongman. And they showed footage of him, of people driving cars into his legs. Like he would hold a car back with his legs without, breaking his ankles or anything like that. They did a tug of war with 10 men, and he was stronger than 10 men. It was frightening, the kind of stuff that they were doing. And they showed literally that he had come up with this lore for himself as a lumberjack, because he was a lumberjack. That was his character. That every scar on their body had a story. It was supposed to be a reminder of something that needs to be done or whatever. So he took an axe and carved up his own inner wrist. Not inner wrist, but like the inner forearm with the axe on television. And how they got phone calls. It was frightening, bro. This is the old days. But this was my favorite story in the episode, because I was like, this is wild. And of course they had video of it. I don't think it was natural video. It looked like it might have been taken off of YouTube or something like that, but it was incredible footage of, Joe LeDuc. And the guy's an absolute monster, and I loved it. I thought it was great. The Mario Galento stuff was very good too. I thought that was fun. They didn't go too much into the Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert stuff. They didn't really go into that as much as I think they probably would have wanted to, especially since it plays into some of the stuff later. For instance, the USWA stuff, like what happened to that. We went over that in the channel before. They talked about having matches in weird places, like they had a match in a prison. I forget what prison they said they had it in, but Dutch Mantell talked about it being essentially Bizarro World, because the heels were the good guys in the jails, while the bad guys were the and that they didn't have any security. That all the security were in the guard towers, so they had to wrestle these matches in front of these inmates with no security. That just sounded frightening. I wish I had memorized when that was, but I didn't write it down. But I did write down the Lonesome Pine Orchestra. Now, Walter Mays is a famous composer, and apparently he put together this show, and at the end of it was a wrestling match between Dutch Mantell and Jeff Jarrett. This is actually online. You can actually sit back and watch this. It's about 16 minutes, where the orchestra actually plays along to the beats of the wrestling match. And this is in front of people who go to the orchestra. This is not in front of wrestling fans. This is in front of quote unquote high art fans, avant-garde fans. And, Dutch Mantell is such an effective heel that he's able to get these people into it. And Dutch Mantell says, this whole thing is in the Smithsonian, and we're the only 2 wrestlers in it. And Jeff Jarrett was a young boy at the time too. He was very young. He ended up winning the match too, but it was very interesting. I thought this was something that wrestling fans need to know more about. This kind of stuff. You know, they wrestled in front of a symphony. Like, that's fucking brilliant. And you know what else was very fucking cool? That I think Meiko Satomura and Asuka actually did the same thing in Japan, where Asuka, I think it was for her own birthday or something like that, had a match with Meiko Satomura, and it was no ropes, just the 2 of them fighting to some drums. And that was one of the most intense matches I've seen, especially women's matches. That match was tremendous. It was from Japan. And it seemed like this was the exact same thing here, except for it was Southern wrestling. So that was great. That's really good sports entertainment stuff. And Jeff Jarrett ended the show by saying Memphis was sports entertainment before sports entertainment existed. And I know people was cringing at that. I know they were cringing at that. But it was still very interesting. So they talked about a lot of guys having run-ins with fans. Jimmy Hart got shot with a blow dart in the ass. It was crazy. That sounded crazy. Jerry Lawler getting into wrestlers' fights at the Louisville Gardens, and how the police would have like a holding cell in the basement or something like that. And if you assaulted one of the wrestlers, they didn't arrest you immediately. They would just take you down to one of the holding cells and then let the wrestler basically get a couple of minutes alone with you. And then you got to make a decision about whether you're going to take your ass whooping like a man or you would go to jail. And most of the time the fans would just accept the beating, and then they would just get beat up and they would get to go home. Like, that's crazy, but it feels right. You know, it just feels like something that would happen in the South. You know, hey boy, you gonna take this ass whooping like a man or what? You know, while he chewing that tobacco. Like, hey boy, you hit that old King Jerry Lawler while you do that. And then, you know, he gonna get his lick back on you. And then that's it. Jerry Lawler told a story about a fan throwing a brick through his window of his car after he threatened to run the fan over if he did it. It was a great story. He said he was coming out of the arena, and the fan had a nice brick. And he told that fan, if you throw this brick, I'm going to run you over in my car and I'm going to kill you. So Jerry King Lawler gets behind the wheel of his car. The guy launches the brick, smashes through the window. And so Jerry Lawler turns the goddamn gas on, hits the gas, and he's going to run this guy over. And the car goes dooka, 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 dooka. And Jerry Lawler gets out of the car and finds out that all 4 of his tires have been slashed. That's fucking phenomenal. The guy slashed his tires before he... Like, that shit is great, man. That's some great shit. But that's the kind of stuff that was on this show. You know, it's good stories, fun times. Some not too dark, not too, you know, over the top. Just a round table of the OGs telling cool stories that you get to listen in on. It probably would be fun as a podcast, you know, but you got the pictures here, which absolutely helps. You got pictures and you got B-roll footage. It's an excellent show. I can't do a full review of it, you know, without going bit by bit. And I would need to know a lot about this territory, which I don't, honestly. I don't know a lot about, like, 70s and 80s Memphis wrestling. I don't know a lot about it, so I can't expand upon these stories or, you know, anything like that. Maybe they'll get to a territory I actually do know a little bit about, or something that I actually read a book about or have a book about it in a stash somewhere, that I could talk more intelligently about. But I highly suggest everybody watch it. It was fun. The Joe LeDuc stuff alone is worth it. So is the Galento story, you know, and it breezes by. It doesn't overstay its welcome at 1 hour, you know, so it's like 40 minutes. The first episode is up on YouTube if you wanted to see it. So I highly suggest everybody watch it. It's a fun show. Is it must see? Probably not. But I think, considering people like me really wanted Dark Side of the Ring to put their efforts towards something positive, I think they successfully did that here. I think they successfully found something positive that, you know, could uplift the wrestling business and show the wrestling business in a different light. and I owe it to them at least to give this a shot. And this was fun. It's a fun show, but it's not must see. It's not going to, nothing so far, let's say yet, do I see is going to get a lot of attention and turn a lot of heads. But I think they're going to do more than one episode on Memphis because they didn't talk about Andy Kaufman, which is like the number one angle that people talk about when it comes to Memphis. But I'm really interested in this Lonesome Pines thing. It was actually on TV, PBS, from what Dutch Mantel said. So I've been trying to find extra information on it. I looked up the composer, but there's just not a lot of information on it outside of that it actually happened. There's not a lot of backstory on it, that at least that I've seen. Maybe in some books that other people have read, but I haven't seen a lot about it. But it's legitimately fun. It's a very unique idea. I love that idea. Why we haven't done it more often is a surprise to me. It just seems like having wrestling matches to music would be a great thing to do, especially if you run something like a Battle Slam, which they're trying to mix wrestling and music anyway. Having like a DJ or a club scene or something like that with the music playing as the wrestlers wrestle could be fun. Kind of like what ECW did with New Jack, or what AEW recently did with Moxley. That could be fun, where you have music playing throughout. But instead of it being just a wrestler's theme song, it could be live music. That could be fun. That could be interesting. That could be an interesting show. Why nobody has done it yet, beyond me. But I would certainly look into doing something like that if I was a promoter. But Tales from the Territories is a fun show. Thank you for your time. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
Old non-aggression. Once that lesson sets in, you'll see a session. But you got an affection for no progression, regression. The best